Try sit.
Welcome. Where should you sit? Right here, right next to me.
Oh, because I want to make sure my voice goes over very well.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll be fine.
Yes.
Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia, and this is my mother, Ema. Hey, Ema.
Hello, my sweetness. Thank you for the tea, by the way. But since I've been, back here in Baltimore, I've had to exchange my gin and tonic for tea.
Yeah, how is your time in Baltimore? What have you done in the past week?
Well, we take my grandson to the beach. You know, usually go to the beach and it's a battle with the slime and the lime and the sand.
That's just a really bad beach. I know the one you're talking about, and it's bad because you have a bunch of geese droppings and things like that there, and it's very rocky. It's very coarse sand. It's not a lot of fun.
No.
But you went bowling this week?
Yeah, we went bowling today. I haven't been bowling, I think, in about, oh my gosh, at least 10 years or something like that. It really jolted my mind. I got to reminisce
Okay, sure.
about bowling, about the evolution of bowling here in Baltimore. First of all, Baltimore, I think, and I understand, I think Texas, the only states where there's duck pin bowling
Oh
in the
yeah.
country. Although South Africa, I found out later, yes, South Africa also has duck pin bowling. But I had a friend when I was going to seminary in New York who I brought home for a weekend to Baltimore for a vacation, and she wanted to go bowling. So I took her to one of the local lanes, and we walked in, and she stopped, and she looked, and she pointed and started laughing hysterically.
Because all the balls are so small.
And she says, "What are those?" I said, "It's duck pin bowling." She was laughing so hard she could barely stand up. She says, "You don't expect me to bowl with them, do you?"
And
I
she
said,
bowled.
"Well, yeah, no."
She didn't?
We had to get back in the car. She made me drive, I think, to not Glen Burnie, but somewhere on Route 40.
Wow,
I
to
had to get a
regular
Route 40
bowling?
to get regular
She didn't want to do
pin
duck.
bowling.
Do you know do
She
duck
would
pin?
not even try it.
Oh
No.
my God.
But I remember the very first time I went bowling, I think it must have been maybe 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And my father took us. And would you believe in those days, this was before the days of the automatic pin setters. They had actual men that stood there at the end of the lanes that were responsible for removing the dead wood or resetting the pins. They did it manually by
Yeah, I think I remember
hand.
watching a movie from back in the 1960s or something like that, that they had little, like, kids, teenagers, that's what their job was, that they would go ahead and set the pins and whatnot.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then later on, of course, when they came out with the automatic pin setters, you had to press the button yourself. And there were two buttons. The balls come out. There were two buttons there. One button was just to remove the dead wood if you weren't finished, and the second button was to totally knock down all the pins that you were finished, totally knock them down and reset. But you managed the buttons yourself.
Mm.
And also, when you kept score, they gave you a piece of paper with
Yeah,
boxes on them, yeah, and pencils,
we had that.
yeah, and you kept the score yourself.
We had
Well,
projectors, and we had projectors too.
not in my day. In my day, we didn't. No, that's right. Now I
We
remember.
had
Oh,
projectors, and
that's right.
it
You
was a
put the
thin.
paper
It was like
under
it
the
wasn't even it was like
thing.
a paper, like a
Yeah.
plastic kind of film that you would write on, and we had like the small little pencils.
Well, that came later. The projectors with the plastic stuff, that came later. When I was a teenager, it was still the paper,
Oh
just the
yeah.
paper. Um, but when we went today, I couldn't get over, like, first of all, the pins just automatically set themselves. You don't have to press any buttons. And they have those cartoons.
Yeah, the weird animations.
Yeah.
It's like strike. I'm like, what's that doing? What does it mean? Have like random. It'd be like a bowling ball. A bowling ball goes into like a saloon, and it shoots a bunch of bowling
Yes.
pins. And the bowling pins fall down, and it says strike on it or something.
Yeah. Or if you have a split, it shows somebody dressed, one of the cartoon characters dressed in a knight armor and taking a sword and just, cutting the pin in
I think
half.
Family Guy made fun of that actually. That animation made it like it was like really graphic, messed up stuff. So yeah, so
That would
actually
be interesting, an X-rated bowling lane.
that would be interesting. I mean, it would be a novelty for a while, But then you get some dumb teenagers trying to sneak in, and it'd just be a pain in the ass. Just wouldn't know. Um, but later on this week, we had the Chanukah Sabayas. Chanukah Sabayas, the Chanukah Sefer Torah at Beis Lubavitch. We finally got Baruch Hashem, a fourth Sefer Torah.
Hmm.
Um, it's I always find that it was very warming and welcoming, and I really enjoyed seeing the dancing and everyone and having all the torches, and it was funny because they were using tiki torches. And I just keep on thinking, and I thought of that those one of those white supremacists with those tiki torches screaming, "Jews will not replace us." And then
What?
yeah, it was a whole thing.
Well, I had a friend of mine. We're thinking about Hawaii. How that
Hawaii,
is. Yeah,
you think of Hawaii or
yeah.
Survivor Survivor? It's a TV show.
Oh, I know.
Um,
I've seen it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they extinguish your tiki torch, and they had tiki torches there. It was nice. I
Yeah,
liked it.
I started doing a hula dance when she mentioned about Hawaii.
A Hawaii.
That was very nice. The Chanukah Sefer Torah is just it's very uplifting. It's almost like a chasana. It's really nice. There were the dancing and the singing and the refreshments. The Sudas mitzvah and the people that came. Very nice crowd. The thing, like I said, was very enlightening, very uplifting for everybody, especially after being, surviving this whole year of the COVID
This
situation.
year has been ridiculous, but yeah. Um, so moving on, just asking you some little questions. What regular normal word that you find annoying or aggravating?
When people refer to the uterus as the womb, it's called a uterus. Can we please use the correct term?
Um, is it pronunciation of it or the fact that it's being said or why? I mean, why?
I don't know. For some reason, I don't like the sound of, it's interesting. There are certain sounds, I don't know what it is, that the individuals don't like. Your father never liked the word chunky to describe a fat person.
Oh
I
my God,
used that
I
term
never
a
knew
few
that.
I used that term a few times and he says, "Stop saying that." I said, "What's the matter?" He goes, "I can't stand that word."
I had no idea. What other? Wait. So what? So what other stuff? Thing? Oh shoot, this is a freaking gold mine. I just don't know. I don't know where to dig.
Ah, family secrets in my
Wait,
closet.
so Tati
Yes.
did not like the word chunky. What
Yes.
else didn't he like? I know there was a long grocery list, but like,
I don't know. I'll remember though when he didn't appreciate when I joked around about like our financial situation. Like I told your father once that he and I deserved to get a Nobel Prize in mathematics for discovering new functions in negative numbers.
negative numbers. Jesus Christ. Oh man. Um. So another question: what would you say improved your quality of life, and you wish you did it sooner?
Becoming from,
Yeah.
I think yes, and getting married and having children. I think had I become from earlier, I think it would have given me more direction in life. I don't think I would have. I think I would have had a more positive attitude towards life. Um, I think I would have been happier earlier because um, being I guess kind of depressed was one of my problems. I went through periods of time where I was very depressed, and in fact, at one point, had to go to therapy for it. And I think being from would have given me a more positive outlook, especially marriage would have helped me to direct and organize my life better, and also to live my life in a more serious way, like not getting involved in so many stupid, idiotic things.
You want to elaborate on the stupid, idiotic things or the
I
stuff that?
can't. This is a family show.
Oh, okay, never mind. So wait, so what were you? If you care to talk about, like, what exactly were you depressed about, or what?
That's what I couldn't figure out.
You just were just depressed.
I mm-hmm. And I think the problem was that when you're that without religion and without belief in God, without a really firm belief in God and religion, you keep asking yourself like, what's the sense of my living? What's the sense of me, even existing? And becoming religious and studying more about Judaism answered a lot of those questions for me.
What do you mean? How did it answer your questions?
Well, that that
I'm being a little.
that everybody on this earth has a purpose. There's a God. There's a God on this earth, and everybody has a purpose, and that God puts us here for a reason, and that we're not just here just to take up time and space. We are actually here to serve a very important purpose in God's plan for the universe. We are part of that.
What do you think your purpose is, or at least was? I mean, just saying. I'm saying, like,
That's a good question. There's it's one of these
you
things where
say it so generically, but like you have
but
really.
it's one of these things where um, it's one of these things where you can't I can't exactly pinpoint say, oh yes, this is definitely my purpose on earth. I think there are a lot of different purposes that I'm serving
Like
on
what?
earth.
Give me one.
Okay, well, here you are.
No, I understand that, like, to create children and to procreate, but maybe it's something a little more
Well, and
specific.
of course, like Hasidus, you study in Hasidus, how um, one of our purposes in Hasidus is that we take the physical and we raise it to the spiritual by using it for mitzvahs, and that this brings down energies of godliness for the whole world, and it has a good influence on the world.
What does godliness have to do with influence in the world? Like
I think we're getting into like
yeah.
Hasidic philosophy.
Well, that's the point. It's
and
a
Kabbalah,
podcast that kind of.
and
So
I
what's
think
the answer, honey?
yeah, but I can't do it on regular achat on one
No,
night.
you can try. You can try.
God,
You can try.
I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, honestly,
I'm
honestly.
I'm not that amazingly learned in Tanya.
Okay,
And the
but
Alter Tanya, I can definitely I can give an answer.
But you've learned
But I
enough.
learned,
What do you personally feel then? What do you personally feel? Not trying to quote from a sefer, not trying to think of from a sefer.
I personally feel that as a Jewish woman that um, I'm serving a very holy purpose of bringing godliness down to this earth by doing Torah and mitzvahs, and that this in itself is going to help the world to raise it to the spiritual level where it's supposed to be,
But what about
and bring
moments?
Mashiach.
What about moments when you really feel more lost or with kind of stuck in a stressful situation? Like, what do you do then? What do you hold on to, or what kind of quotes do you listen to get you out of those situations?
Well, I mentioned before, the famous quote, "This too shall pass," and also just the idea, just keeping in mind that God controls everything, and that what you're going through is true. When you're going through something, it's like, we don't look for SARS, but at least what's comforting is to know that nobody suffers for no reason. That our suffering is, in the long run, what's going to make us who we are, and that getting through difficult situations, getting through challenges, is what sharpens us and makes us, how do I say it, makes us stronger people, like like Nietzsche, said,
Yeah.
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And Viktor Frankl's logotherapy.
What was that again? It was. I know
He based it on
having a purpose is the form of survival. Like when you have
Mhm.
like a will, when you have a wanting to do something, that's what drives you. That's what can keep you alive.
Yeah. Now I heard an old story, one of these parables years
Hmm.
ago, analogies that was a woman told at one of the Shabbatonim years and years ago that I attended, and it was about a man who gets arrested by the Soviets, and they put him in this little jail cell, and they tell him, if you ever get bored or feel like you're going crazy, just turn the crank over there. So he looks at the crank and he wonders to himself, well, what's the purpose of that crank? And then he figures, a crank is usually used to turn a mill. Oh, I bet that crank goes to a mill that's turning wheat into flour that's going to feed my family. So he wakes up. He has a purpose. He wakes up. He yells at the guys who he thinks are the millers across the wall. Hey, come on, wake up. We've got to start making this flour. And he spends his days like turning this crank and turning this crank, turning this crank. Finally, at the end of 20 years, they let him out of prison. And he says to the guard, hey, can I go to the people on the other side of the wall that were part of the flour factory so I can tell them this was a job well done? So the guard kind of gives this snarly smile and says, sure, comrade, Tavadich, come with me. And he takes him on the other side of the wall. And what the guy saw gave him a heart attack and made him die. It was nothing but the end of the crank. He was turning air for 20 years. So I thought of that story. That's a very depressing story. But then I thought to myself, wait a minute. How do you know that every time you turned that crank, that it was a hot summer day and there was some human being or animal on the other side of that crank that was walking and couldn't stand it anymore and couldn't breathe or something? It was such a hot day. And all of a sudden the crank starts turning and then, oh, wow, it's air. So how does this guy know that he wasted his time for 20 years? He might have actually helped people survive and not have known it.
So that's like being, if you on your in your perspective, being pleasantly surprised. So when was the last time you were pleasantly surprised?
That's not pleasantly surprised. Let me think. Pleasantly surprised. I was just thinking of something funny. When you were born. Now I was laughing about when we had disappointments in life. My father used to quote this old Groucho Marx line.
Oh,
He would say to us children, there are many disappointments in life that we have to put up with. Like, why, for instance, I married your mother to have children. Imagine my surprise when you came along.
oh, that's cute. That's really cute.
He used to say all the time to us.
But when was the last time
Pleasantly surprised. I'm trying to think. Pleasantly surprised. I'm surprised. I'm surprised. Man, I'm trying to think about that one. Pleasantly surprised. I guess when I saw my house in Florida that your father bought.
Oh yeah?
Did I tell that story on the air?
No, you never told it to me either. I don't
Okay,
know the story.
here's what happened. I was up north with your sister because she had to finish her last year in Beis Yaakov.
Yeah.
Your father was in Florida with your older sister because he needed knee surgery and he wanted to get it down there. There was a better
Yeah.
surgeon down there. So he calls me up and he says to me, guess what? We bought a house. I go, oh? He says, yeah. And I said, don't you think I should have seen it first? And he says to me, oh, no more, you'll love it. And I saw
That's
the
really
house,
cute.
and yes, I loved it.
Oh, that's really
Yes.
adorable. I really like that one. Now, on a different note, when did you realize your standards needed to be higher?
Oh, my standards never needed to be higher. Always had good standards.
Yeah, you really think that, eh?
I, um, higher standards. Well,
When did you
I'll be
realize,
very
like,
honest about you. I'll be very honest about myself. Like, let me be very honest. Um, Growing up, my parents didn't have a lot of money.
hmm
And part of it was because my father was forced to quit high school during the Depression to go to work to support his family. And so I always felt that the best way, not that we were in total poverty. I mean, we lived okay, but we certainly didn't have money for a lot of extras. So I felt that the best way out of the situation of poverty would be to get a really good education. My parents really emphasized education
hmm
with me and my sisters. And so my standards were well, not all the time high. I think when I hit junior high school, when I hit when I hit middle school, like sixth grade, fifth, sixth grade, that's when I started to put a lot of pressure on myself to do well. Also, before I started junior high school, my father said to me, we don't have money for you girls for college. And you have two choices. Either you have to go to work and save your money, or he said, apply yourself and get very good grades. That way you'll be eligible for a scholarship. And that's when I decided, that's when I really started to push myself to achieve. When I was in kindergarten, that was a different matter. When I was in kindergarten, first and second grade, I struggled a lot. Um, I don't think I had very good teachers. I think I was the type of child at the time. I was what today they would probably go ADD, ADHD, whatever, yada yada.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the teachers, I really should have benefited from a smaller class size. The problem was Baltimore City at that time had the post-war baby boom situation
Yeah.
where they didn't have enough books, they didn't have enough supplies, and they did not have enough room. In my first grade class and in my second grade class, at one point, we were bursting at 50 kids in the room.
Wow, that's a lot.
And to make matters worse, this was a first year teacher, just graduated,
Oh no.
and she could not handle, not only could she not handle it, she could handle kids that were very advanced, they were very precocious, that did well, that didn't need too much help. She could really handle those.
She can handle something that can handle themselves.
Right. But a child like myself who needed more personal attention, that she couldn't handle. So there were many times I remember in school, like you would do these papers and then they would have extra for experts. I wouldn't even look at that part. I always figured, I can't do that. I'm stupid. I can't do that. So I really felt in my heart, in kindergarten and first and second grade, I honestly thought I was the stupidest thing on the planet.
Wow.
I didn't even try. I mean, I did what I had to do. I did my homework, whatever, But I really thought I was stupid and that there was no use in me even trying. Then in third grade, I had this really good teacher. She was a veteran teacher. She was a middle-aged woman with a lot of experience behind her, very sweet lady, just the type of teacher that could handle a child that needed some special attention. And she did, and she gave me the special attention I needed. The first thing she did was in math and in reading. For some reason, this first year teacher I had always put me in the last group, always the last group. The minute I came into this third grade room and this teacher started working with me, I couldn't believe it. She put me in the first reading group and the second math group. I was like shocked. I could not believe that I was actually put in the two higher groups.
Well, it's
And then after that was when, in fourth and fifth grade, was when I would start working a little harder. And then when I would see like these little extra things on the side, extra for experts, like these little harder things that came after the main assignment, I thought, hey, wait a minute, why do I always avoid that? Maybe I'll give it a try. And I did. And I was able to do it. I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised that I was actually able to handle it.
Okay. Because I was reading up on something. I know we have to call it quits soon, but I was reading up on a article that was explaining that basically education has not scientifically understanding education has only been around for 100 years.
I can believe that.
It has not really had its time to shine. We still don't know what's going on. We're still in the dark ages of childhood education, regular education. Like, how do you properly educate the masses? Because beforehand, you wouldn't really do that. And that's really something that I found pretty interesting because, like, who knows what's going to happen, God willing, when I have kids and I start seeing how they're going to be educated and how I know already I'm seeing kids now going to school being completely different than when I was going into school, you know. But yeah, it's a very interesting point. Like, I guess with more experience, we'll have better education with better, more knowledgeable, society.
The problem is too, in general, working with children. Children don't think like adults, and the human mind is such like there's no way to creep into somebody's mind and read it.
Yeah.
Even a psychic can't read somebody's mind. So you don't know what these kids are thinking. It's like I'll tell you an interesting story about a music student of mine. Okay, very quickly.
I don't think no. We'll have to save it for tomorrow.
Okay.
We're really pushing over time.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother, and hope you had a wonderful time. Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother episode. Please like and subscribe our Facebook group at Jewish Boy Calls His Mother Podcast, and check out our YouTube channel, Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I know you'd like it, and my mother would appreciate it too.